So this morning, I wish to talk about something that is a word that's used all the time. We use it all the time. And I wanted to address this in a way that may help all of us, this person included, understand more deeply what this is about. Well, the assumption, the preconception, the judgment of what is happiness? What is it? I can speak about it in a couple of ways. I really want your participation in this, so I'm going to say a few words about it, and then please help me. We can go into some questions about it. Of course, there's the happiness that we all know about. There's the relative kind. Things are going well, we're delighted. Things take a turn for the worst, as they say, and suddenly we're looking around for what the why question comes up. If you're on the spiritual path, if you're on the path of seeing what the truth is, you may have the opportunity to go to a what question rather than a why. Even a what is extra, and what will still possibly get you in trouble with your self-centeredness. Or maybe not. Maybe your karma is such that that doesn't happen to you very much. Some people have red hair. Some people don't have any hair. So there's lots of varieties going on there that are pretty choiceless in most cases. So the contrasting kind is things are really going good. I got the job, not only got the job, then being paid more than I thought. The relationship I'm in is just amazing. I'm thinking of marrying him or her or them. Just all kinds of really positive, quite often happening when you're young, although it can happen when you're old too. So we tend to get attached to this relative good feeling, and we try to find ways to get more of that. More of a hedonistic approach to it. Not wrong, it's just everyone wants to be happy. As Tai Situ Rinpoche once said at Sheridan House in Chicago in about 1979, when I heard him talk there. Tai Situ said, I have to quote, he says, how did he say that? You remember how he said that? Yes, thank you. No one wants to be suffered. So I thought it was interesting, his way of saying it, because of course his native language was Tibetan. No one wants to be suffered. I don't think he was said once. And he said it several times in the talk, but the talk was very powerful. And talking about the nature of the First Noble Truth, life is suffering, it's difficult. And what we do, what human beings do in this intensely materialistic world, materially materialistic, we want stuff, psychologically materialistic, we want to have good feelings, we want to control ourselves, we want to control our minds, we want to control other people's minds, other people's ideas, opinions, judgments, evaluations, conclusions. Join me and my team, do it this way, take this drug, don't take that drug, take this medication, don't take that. The advertisements are just flooded with this kind of manipulation in order to get what? Money, power, all the other things, control. It's quite exhausting, and it can get more exhausting the stronger your actual spiritual practice. When I say spiritual practice, I don't care if you're Muslim or if you're a Tibetan Buddhist, a Zen Buddhist, a Theravadan Buddhist, or not even a Buddhist, but just a person who is trying to understand the truth. There are people who might study Buddhism and might study meditation and might even have a teacher that don't necessarily consider themselves a Buddhist. That's totally appropriate. It's up to you to how you need to do that, how you want to do that. You just gave Jukai to a student of mine yesterday, or lay precepts, bodhisattva precepts, to someone who's been a student of mine for about 7 or 8 years. Took this person a long time to come to the conclusion, you want to call it that they may need to actually step right into it and formally receive the 16 precepts of the Bodhisattva, the Mahayana path, as it is holds forth or shows forth in the Soto Zen order of Mahayana Buddhism. So you may need some glue like that. You may not. You can do this all by yourself. It even seems to be doing it by yourself that's so important. You may need the community, the Sangha. You may need the teaching. Everything's dependently arisen. Nothing comes from its own side as an individual being or self. Nothing lasts. Everything is in a state of suffering. There's no solid self anywhere. Those are the marks of existence, several of them. That's just a little bit of the teaching. So you may need that structure, you may need the community, you may need a teacher, or maybe you should just go within. You can do that. If you just hear that word, go within. If you understand what's being said in that very simple teaching that has been around in all the lineages for centuries and centuries. It's hard to remember that when the world is clamoring at you to do this, do that, pull this, buy on that, buy that, get rid of that, don't do that, don't listen to her, on and on, just constant chatter. And what all these beings are doing is trying to be happy. Just their way of doing it is structured in such a way that it is about manipulating relative truth. And of course, relative truth, if you've studied the Buddha's Dharma at all, is basically untrue. It is a relative truth. It comes and goes. The very nature of it is to show up and go away. Happiness, sadness, or disappointment, or happiness, sadness. It does this all day long. Most of the world, not everyone, but are trying to correct that, trying to use the relative understanding to stop the bad part, stop the sadness, cover that up with something, drugs or activity or lack of activity or something, and then get more of the good stuff, get more of the control, get more of the money, get more attention. You have people in politics who are just all about getting as much attention. I was just reading in a Guy Debord's book published back in the 1950s called the Society of the Spectacle. Had some very good things to say about our society, and just 40 years ago, being more and more about something, the spectacle of what's showing up. Presenting as some kind of carnival that you need to attend, so you don't have to look at the fundamental nature of reality that was pointed out by the Buddha 2,500 years ago. Life is suffering. This is not nihilism. It's not pessimism. It's the truth. It's just true. It's difficult. We have nerve endings everywhere in all the sense fields, including the mind. So what's being talked about from this person is there's such a thing as unconditional happiness. That's not something you find. Well, you may find it, but it's more about an uncovering, because it's already the case. Consciousness is already not in distress, never has been. The distress comes from when consciousness wraps up into a ball in the consciousness and demands or pushes or doesn't want this or wants that. It goes to war, goes to peace. Going to peace can be just as difficult as going to war. Don't take any position. And how do you do that? You watch the way your mind continually grasps at this position, rejects that position, or ignores that, or position, passion, aggression, ignorance, position. Don't do any of that. And how do you do that? You spend a lot of time holding very still. I'm very biased here. Hold very still and watch the constant positionality of the mind stream that is coming out of an imaginary self that thinks he, she, they are real and need protecting, or real and need respect, or real and need to be whatever, any kind of dynamic other than justice, as it is, justice. And that happiness that is unconditional will not be a feeling. It's not tied into conditions, including the condition of having a feeling. I sometimes say it in a kind of a maybe obtuse way, is you don't care how you feel. You awaken because you finally have stopped separating yourself from everything, including your negativity. I'm not saying there aren't ways to work with this, therapies that are ways that working with negativity that can be very, very workable, successful, and can get you out of the dark areas of consciousness. And then there's some kinds that that, yeah, I think it's EMDR goes right in and just actually drags you out of things that have been naturally covered up. It's not time for you to look at that. Sitting practice of meditation, again, biased. I'm very biased based on half a century of doing this in this direction and in this direction with others. It's very necessary to just watch what arises, not go in and search for anything. Don't look for anything. Sit back, hold still, watch what arises, and you'll get exactly the information, the understanding, the positionality or lack thereof that you need in order to see your true nature. It just takes a while. You might need someone to say, no, not there, over here. Not a feeling, unconditional. Unconditional happiness is seeing that everything's completely perfect as it is. This does not mean that you're looking at the terrible things that are happening in Palestine and thinking, oh, that's perfect. No, there are no conclusions. If something is hot, you don't need to conclude that it's hot. If it's cold, you don't need to conclude that it's cold. It's not a conclusion, although that conclusion aspect of consciousness may be showing up as by pulling away from a hot stove, and so on and so forth. I don't want to simplify it too much. What I'm encouraging you to do here is find out who you are. Don't get your identity from situations, from your own emotions, from your own thoughts. Don't believe, don't disbelieve, don't ignore your thoughts, your emotions. This can take the rest of your life, whatever you have left of it. Maybe you have a lot. Spend some time. As has been said, way before we got here, death comes without warning. This body will be a corpse. At that time, the Dharma will be my only help. Find that here. It's not something some guy said 2,500 years ago, although he endeavored to help those who were there with him. It's something you can find yourself. My teacher, Kobanjina Roshi, said, get your own authority. He also knew when he said that there is no such thing as an authority. But if you try to get an authority, you look right at to see, am I the authority? Is he, she, they the authority? You see, there is no such thing because everything is dependently risen. Everything is dependently risen. No solid self in the skandhas anywhere. Has to be done through awareness. Although the stair steps leading to that there may be a lot of concepts and constructs getting there. There's nothing to be discovered, but there might be something to be uncovered. You just need to look at the cover-ups rather than try to rip them apart and get somewhere. Spiritual materialism, psychological materialism, material materialism, all of those things. Trying to get, grasping, rejecting, and shutting down. Can take some questions now, or I can continue to speak.
Milka bowing, you said death comes without warning. What is the happiness that we might find in that?
It's the truth. And who you actually are, your actual identity can't die. Your physical identity, your ideas, your thoughts, your memories, your personality, everything that shows up as something, your emotions, your happiness, your unhappiness, all of that's coming apart. It may not be this year, but it's coming apart. It's not some kind of doom. Because the other part of that is nothing is threatened. If you think something is threatened, this just means that you believe in some part of the illusion that you're trying to protect, or believe in some kind of the illusion that you're trying to run away from, or some other part that you're trying to enhance. Well, consciousness doesn't come and go. It doesn't appear, so therefore it can't disappear. And your true nature, if I say so, and I'm about to say so, is consciousness only. This is a teaching that's been around way before any of us were born, and will go on no matter what anyone does to me, or to this monastery, or to the Dharma. No matter what anybody's saying or doing, you cannot stop that, because it has not what started.
Milka bowing, So this type of happiness, does it continue?
It doesn't have to continue. It doesn't have a movement to it. It's just this. It's not separate from itself. It's consciousness only. And it's not particularly a feeling, nor is it a position. And the words that are coming out of these vocal cords are very, very relative. This is a relative situation. This is a relative person. This is coming apart. I watch it every day. It come apart slowly, go back into the elements. I'm not concerned. Doesn't mean that I don't have nerve ending pain. Of course, you do. We all do. Well, that's part of being a living being. Consciousness showing up as a living being, temporary, very temporary. More about that. Good question.
Kabowing, what is the difference in that happiness compared to the happiness in our in the illusion?
The happiness in the illusion of I just got a raise, that kind of happiness.
Yes.
It's relative. It comes and goes. It's impermanent. Won't last. It's temporary. Shows up. It's like watching television. It comes and goes. Shows up for a while. You wake up and you're here for a day. You go back to sleep. You completely disappear. You go into another realm altogether. Dreams. But you're waking for those from those and say, oh, that was unreal. Well, this is unreal too. And when you awaken, you'll awaken from this dream. That doesn't mean that if you're in the dream, you won't still have some difficulty. Won't trip over things or have people upset with you. But you fundamentally see that there's nothing to correct, nothing to fix. Everything is fundamentally perfect. And you're able to speak out of that with unconditional confidence, because there's no one who's confident. It's just consciousness. There might be a tone of voice, there might be a facial expression, might be any kind of, so you haven't left relative truth if consciousness is still showing up as a physical form. But no longer attached, detached, or having any other relationship to any part of the illusion. Coming, going, shutting down, any of that. Not attached to that anymore. And yet, at the same time, this is why it's so difficult to see with the intellect or the thinking process, also not separate from it. If you see it, you'll be able to use all the conceptual words and talk about something that's completely impossible to describe. And you just do it the way Dogen did in the 13th century, talking out of both sides of your mouth. Well, you can talk about the absolute and the relative at the same time. My teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, was also not only good at talking about that, he actually functioned that way. Astonishing form that the society is really upset with that kind of activity because it doesn't align with right and wrong, proper ethics, which are all kinds of rules that protect everybody, protect the poor helpless people. And not wrong, it's not incorrect, it just needs to be seen. Further questions? Yes, sir.
Shadow bowing, why is it that the truth can show up as insulting to students? Bowing.
Well, from my perspective, which is limited, of course, but my perspective, because there's something that they're trying to protect. And so if either the teacher or the teaching or the community, those are the three jewels, is functioning in such a way that it's insulting or bothersome, irritating to you, then you can take that as a teaching. That allows me to go within and see that there's no one here, there's no one threatened, there's no one to be insulted. The insult is a creation based on assuming there's somebody here that can be harmed or insulted, or something is threatened. More?
Shadow bowing, when you say go within, is that done with the sense of touch? Bowing?
I'm just doing this as a gesture. It doesn't even have a location. But since we're in a world of locations or illusions, we use that just like we use the wall, we use our body. We take this whole body-mind complex, which is not separate from consciousness only, place ourselves in front of a wall. We just watch the movement. We observe the comedy of errors coming up in the mind stream called thoughts, emotions, opinions, judgments, evaluations, conclusions, etc., without accepting them, without rejecting them, without closing them off, passion, aggression, and ignorance.
Shadow bowing. Over the years, I've tried to go within, and I can't even do that.
That's how it's done. There's no success. If you go within, you won't know it. It's only the intention to go within. It's not the success story. If you sit down, hold still, and endeavor to go within, whatever happens is going within. You won't get a credential. I think I'm going within. If you're doing that, you need to come and talk to me. If I'm your teacher, which I am, then I would say, that's not true. And then you say, well, then I'm going within then? I'd say, no, not exactly. So I would constantly, what's a fancy word for that? I think it's Sanskrit, befuddle. I would befuddle you. And why do I do that? Because I am endeavoring to help you as I endeavor to help anyone who comes and sits in front of me for 10 minutes to don't take a position on anything, including Buddhism. Take no position. And how do you do that? You see the way you're taking a position. You see the way you have a desire to take a position. You see the way you have a desire to be right, a desire to be correct, and you see that it's a lie. It's not true. So you don't have to do anything. But also you don't have to get rid of it because you don't have to get raw. You do not have to get rid of something that is basically untrue. It's an illusion. Just see that it's untrue.
Shadow bowing. Does seeing more clearly lead to being less reactive? Bowing.
It may. But there's no guarantee of any kind of an outcome because the causes and conditions are so very, very complicated between you and me and everyone around us. We don't realize that someone's sitting over here. There's several people in the room. There are people on here that you're having an interaction with everybody. If they're listening to you, you're not separate from them. If you're speaking like I'm speaking, you're not separate from anyone here. So how that's showing up as any kind of an outcome or any kind of a further display 3 days from now or 3 weeks from now is completely untraceable. And if we try to personalize it, like hold on to our personhood, ego, hold on to someone else's by judging them, ego, or by praising them, whatever it may be, it's still a push and pull polarity that keeps us from seeing the fundamental truth. It's fundamental truth. If you see it, as I've said many times, you won't see anything because it's like watching a movie and knowing it's unreal. So you still watch it. You still might be entertained by it. You still might be a little frightened by it if it's a good movie or if it's a bad movie. But it doesn't control it no longer controls your life. You can still get up from the chair and walk away from that movie. You could turn it off. You can go make lunch, go to bed. You're not, of course, if you're binge watching, then if you're binge watching your life, then you could be having some trouble there. You might need to binge watch you might need to binge observe in the Zendo, the shrine room, or you might need to binge in front of the wall in your bedroom. Binge on that. See what this is, please. When I say please, I'm just saying it's important. It's important. It's important to do this. You may not realize how important it is until you have been around for another 10, 20, 30 years and watched all around you how difficult it is to really control anything, including your own mind. You do not have a say-so about anything because you are not a separate being at the levers and buttons of anything. Everything's dependently risen. Further questions anywhere? Yes.
Yokabowing question from YouTube from Ath. This path is 90% fear and anxiety and 10% freezing and shutting down. Listening to you doesn't help as it used to. Please help how to override this shit.
You don't have to override anything. You have to see the way. And I know Ath has been on here many times in the past few years. So you just have to see it. So the downside of what you're talking about there, the words you're using, it sounds difficult, challenging, of course. But the upside of that, what I'm hearing as a Dharma teacher, is this is what you're going to have to look at. And I'm saying to you, if I may, I don't know you personally, we never met face to face, but I'm saying continue to look right into the darkness that you're describing with words. Don't blame anybody for it. Don't blame me. Well, if you're gonna blame somebody, blame me. Don't blame anybody else. Don't blame anybody for anything. Just go into that and do it by holding still, face a wall, face a closet door, and do it every day. Return to it every day, over and over and over. Until. There is no until, because there isn't any after. Thank you for that question. Good luck to you. Yes. Yes.
Total bowing with what you just said, and you said the other day that something like Trungpa Rinpoche put a target on himself, and it seems like you sort of just did that. What is it for the teacher to put a target on themselves?
You could say it this way. I'm inviting, if you want to throw something, an aggression, then bring it this way. Do I want you to come and destroy the monastery and accuse me of this, that, and the other thing like has been going on in the last year or two? No, it's not very comfortable, but you may have to do that. And several people do that. And so I'm saying, if that's what you need to do, then do that. All I'm doing is doing what I'm telling you to do. Receive everything. Receive it, whatever it is. Don't say, well, this shouldn't be happening because I'm such a great teacher. You know, what should be hating me or disliking me? No, I say, bring it here. It might be even to an including saying, that's a terrible teacher. Sokuzan's a liar and he said this or that, and then go do something else with your life. If that helps you, go do it. But if you want to relate to this person as a teacher, where you ask me questions about the nature of your mind, I'm also here to help you with that. But there's no guarantee of anything. I will not be comfortable, more than likely. Yes.
Michelle Vine, where is the happiness in the midst of the difficulty?
So it's not a feeling, and it's not in the midst, and there is no difficulty. This is completely perfect. What you're looking at is an illusion. The emotions that arise in your mind yesterday, today, tomorrow are unreal. They are vivid and they're intense, but they fundamentally are not real. And so what does the ego do? It says, well, if they're not real, then won't they go away, or won't I stop feeling that? Or no, they might become more intense when you stop fighting them with your cover-ups and judgments about who did it, why it's happening, or how I can get rid of it. Passion, aggression, ignorance. It's not a feeling of it's not a feeling of happiness. Like one of the ways absolute relative bodhicitta, absolute bodhicittas just see that this is what it is. There's nothing to do about anything. It's just completely unreal, vivid, and it's empty of other. Relative bodhicitta is be kind to everyone. You want to be happy? Receive everyone's suffering. That means listen to them. If someone's really, really miserable. If they're really miserable and really blaming you, they probably won't even talk to you. They just want to get away from you and blame you. So just receive. You follow that a little bit? I know you do. Just receive it. You know, you personally are very generous about listening to people and receiving what's happening with them and having an understanding of the suffering that people are going through. That's what it's about. You won't necessarily get a credential or a payoff. I'm starting to feel better because I'm so kind to everybody. You know, nobody's going to come on and say, you know, that Michelle's one of the kindest people I've ever met. I was miserable till I met her. And now, because she's so nice and receives everything, I'm feeling better. Although something like that could happen. It's called friendship. So this has been said long before I said anything about it. You want to be happy, put others before yourself. Relative bodhicitta, the mind awakening on a relative area. Be kind. As His Holiness Dalai Lama, when someone, I think it was someone was asking him about his fundamental nature of Buddhism or of his religion, I think he said, didn't he say kindness? Be kind. Remember what happened. Go ahead.
Elena Bowing, can you talk about the difference between happiness and bliss?
Bliss, as is talked about, is a word in the Buddhist tradition that is used to, because those who understand this or are receiving this or have an understanding of not being separate from this want to talk about it a little bit, but it's not a feeling. It's not happiness. It's not the absence of happiness. It's not suffering. It's not the absence of suffering. It's bliss. It's seeing the fundamental, that it's seeing the great perfection. It's seeing there's nothing to fix, and seeing deeply that anything that's happening that appears chaotic does not need you to reach into it and shut it off. Anything that's happening that is completely happy and uplifted and cheering in the grandstands and waving flags does not need you to go in and join them necessarily. You just observe all that. Now, this doesn't mean that you may not, because of dependent origination, because of your particular karma, find yourself running right into a chaotic situation, possibly even joining in the chaos. So the bliss has to do with seeing that everything is perfect. There isn't anything to fix. This doesn't mean you don't have difficult, challenging feelings, especially if you see someone else suffering at the hands of someone else, or at something you have said or done that you did not intend to hurt anyone, yet they're suffering and they're blaming you. It's seeing that this is fundamentally what it needs to be. It is the fancy conceptual way this is talked about is pratitya samutpada, dependent origination. You're no longer seeing the parts of anything. You see the totality. It's the Buddhist teaching of totality. Even that's an extra word because it means there's something to be added up. No, it's not a total that's added up. It's a total that's never been separate. It's that kind of totality. It's bliss, not an emotion, not a feeling, but not separate from any of those. It's like a doorway that opens up into everything. Everything is welcome. Everything can come and go. It's like an empty hallway where everything comes and goes. There's no person there anymore. There might be the illusion of someone leaning on the wall. Someone else might see you as a separate being. You understand that no, you are no longer separate from anything. The wall you're leaning on, and the people looking at you, assuming you're separate beings, a separate being, and even accusing you of something that you did last week. You receive it, receive it, receive it. No defense. And at the same time, I say no defense. That doesn't mean you wouldn't say, I didn't do that. I have to understand it completely. Otherwise, you'll be caught by the duality and think that there's a right and a wrong, which there is not. There is a right and a wrong in the illusion, and you may have to participate. You may have to get moved from the merry-go-round to the swing set. You may have to move around, but it's an illusion. There's only this, nothing happens. It's empty of other and it's empty of a self. And if it's yours, if you want it. Good luck to you. Jushin,
Is unconditional happiness the same as peace, which comes from not being in the war with everything?
so Jushin, could you repeat that? Maybe even a little bit less description there, just more of what you want to know, and I'll attempt to respond.
If unconditional happiness
Yes.
is a sense of peace, which is related to not being in the war with everything.
So I don't know if I can go into I understand what you're saying now, and I don't know if I can go into there. I'm saying it's neither peace nor war. It's not separate from anything. So therefore, the positionality may rise here, it may go down, it may show up, it may show up as being more peaceful or more contentious or more warlike, but you see that it's unreal. So you have respect for the condition arising of everything. You're no longer going to go at war with something that you personalize, that you project onto. Well, that shouldn't be happening. And I'm here because I'm such an empath, and these people are suffering. No such thing as an empath. This is just fancy ego language. I'm not saying that the people who feel that they are empathic don't have a good intention, but it's coming out of a self-centered part of consciousness called ego. They want to be a person who's like that, so therefore they believe their emotions and their thoughts and think that that's the railroad to paradise. It is not. It's just more difficulty, more going around and around and around. So coming back to your question, no. If you understand what you asked me. Otherwise, if you didn't, you won't understand my response. Mahesh,
Mahesh Bowing. So once you see through the illusion of self, still the emotions and difficult emotions can come up inside. So how can you not act out of self-interest? Because you still need to protect yourself from these difficult emotions. Bowing.
very good question. You may not be able to. But again, if you heard me say many times, I'm not going to tell you how many, because I haven't been counting, but it's about awareness. It's about consciousness and awareness, not about what arises in it. So for you personally, or for me personally, or for Derek or Koshin or Roberto or anyone, it's going to be about observing what arises and goes away, rather than grasping at it with success, grasping at it with failure, or grasping at it with any positionality. Just it's like a difficult weather going through the mind stream. You just watch it. It's just like a rainstorm. It's like hail, like lightning, but it doesn't last. It comes in. You observe it. Difficult emotions. You watch them, and it may be at the same time you're doing that. You may be it's so intense or so painful that the tendency to want to go in and blame someone or blame oneself, or try to find some way to manipulate that, to get control of it. It is an area of consciousness when it's wrapped up in a knot in the heart center. It just has to be seen. And so the downside of what you're going through there is it's painful, it's frustrating, it's disappointing, but it's the path. It's a path of liberation. It's to walk on this path no matter what. As my teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, once said, just march directly into disappointment. Just as soon as you see the disappointment, the difficulty, the sadness, the failure arising, it doesn't mean necessarily walk into it, but it means to just go right into that with your consciousness, so you can see fundamentally that nothing occurs. This is unreal. You need to see it yourself, so you can actually, you don't even need to ask me about it. Never need to talk to me again.
Mahesh Bowing. So in your case, once you've seen through the illusion of self, were there instances where you ended up acting in self-defense or to prevent
Yes.
this suffering?
Yes.
Bowing.
Yes, you may be very reactive, but the karma that shows up as Mahesh, or the karma that shows up as Sokuzan, there's no way to determine or predict what's going to happen there. So if you can actually, one of the things that I've been saying for quite a while is, don't miss your life. What's showing up in your life, receive it. If the negativity is arising in your life where it's just coming up in such a way that you might need to blurt something out or scold someone or bark at someone because the way you're feeling is that they have misunderstood you or abused you or mistreated you in some way, that may have to come out. It is about the awareness. If you're on the path, all these things may need to show up in the awareness, so that you have the opportunity to receive the karma that's been coming from the 13th century. I'm just picking out that century, but that is trying to show up in this lifetime, trying to show up in your world. I don't know of any way that you can do this through some kind of conceptual thinking it out or figuring or calculating or deciding what you should do next, who you should yell at and who you shouldn't. I'm saying it's for lack of a better word, it's like having a kind of confidence in consciousness that you know that whatever needs to show up in your life, you're willing to just be genuine. You're willing to be the emotions that are showing up because you know that it's an illusion and it can't harm you or anyone else. This doesn't give you the right to torture people. I'm not saying it doesn't give you the right to abuse people because you're some kind of a consciousness person or you're the Buddha or something. I'm not saying that. It's better than that. It's worse than that. How I say it? It's better because you're liberated. You're just consciousness. Doesn't matter. When I say it doesn't matter, I don't mean dismissively. Doesn't matter what happens in your mind. There is no mind. There's no mind. The situation's empty. It doesn't mean that things don't come and go in it, but there's no personhood there anymore, grasping, rejecting, shutting down. You can do that. You can do it. Yudao, question.
You're now bowing. Sometimes the path is described as voluntary suffering. And yet it's also taught as our natural state is peace or happiness. So how, I'm not sure what my question is, something,
I know I know what the answer is.
oh, please.
Well, just put a question mark after it.
Uh,
Is that it?
So how, at what point at what point is not a good beginning for the
Yeah,
question?
no, go ahead.
When is that voluntary suffering? When is it appropriate to leave that? And do we
Oh.
ever get a break?
So do we get a break? Is that what you said? Yeah, you get a break. Everything is a break. Everything is a gap. It's a gap everywhere. And the gap is consciousness only. See that the suffering part and the happiness and the bliss, or nothing is separate from anything else. Consciousness only. When everything just arises and comes and goes, and the picking and choosing just comes to an end because you've seen it. You've seen that picking and choosing just creates more chaos, more difficulty, more suffering. And so you've actually realized, what's the fancy Sanskrit word? Advaita, non-dual, no two things anywhere. Never has been two things anywhere. It just looks intensely like it. And we live in a world of dinner plates and garbage pails and cars that run out of gas and emotions that show up in relative to what happened, what the neighbor said, or what they've done. All these little scenarios, little homely vignettes of everyday life that are coming and going with everyone, that sometimes end up into full-scale wars because some people get in charge and they want control so much they're willing to sacrifice countless numbers of people to prove a point to their imagined self-centeredness or ego. More,
You're bowing. How, so some of the suffering is just that we're on this path and we understand that, but how do we know when the suffering is something that doesn't serve the path and is harmful or unbeneficial?
Well, if you're caught up in that, then you're going to try to figure it out, and you can't. It's better than that. It's worse. It's better because you're liberated, because it's just consciousness, and it's worse because you're going to have to go through, you personally, me personally, everyone here, you're going to have to go through your own, what is the fancy words in the Christian tradition, dark night of the soul. You're going to have to go through that. I'm sorry to say that to you, but you're going to have to do it yourself. It's very difficult, and there will be no outcome. If there's an outcome, then you might look correctly ahead, because there'll still be an ahead, because you have not understood dependent origination, nor have you understood Advaita. If you're still looking for something else, as Papaji, the Indian guru in the past century from India, Harilal Punja is his name, something like that, said, give up the search. Well, you can't give up the search, but you can see that there's someone searching, and that one who is searching is unreal. There is no one. If you see that, it's over with. You're done for. And you won't, as I've said, and I'll say it again, you won't care how you feel. Will you feel it? Yes. This feels terrible. This feels good. She's mad at me. He's mad at me. They don't like this. They don't like that. Judgment, evaluation, opinion, just difficult thrashing around of samsara, accusing, exhausting. But if you see what it is, you're able to receive it. You're able to live your life as it is. There's nothing to fix anywhere. If you think so, then we're right back to what you're talking about there, trying to, when you know, when this is gonna be too painful, or this, let's say, don't do anything unless you have to. You know, that's quite a bit of discipline right there. You want some discipline? Hold still. And as a teacher, I can tell you, function as a student of mine just for the next 10 seconds. Don't move. Sit still and look at what's moving. That's it. That's the teaching. Sit still. Watch what moves. And if you see what moves, you see what moves, that's the illusion. And when you see this illusion, everything stops moving. There's nothing, anything more but this. Anything that continues to move, it's just unreal. You're not hindered by anything. You're beyond all the hindrances, and there's a whole list of those. You're beyond those, but that doesn't mean they've left the room. There never was a room. There never was a hindrance. It's called shunyata, emptiness. Read Nagarjuna, the fourfold negation of Nagarjuna. Not this, not that, not both, not neither. Very simple conceptual structure that is pointing at there isn't anything. And doing that conceptually because of his incredible insight and intellect. Okay, we'll go back to just being a class on Buddhism. You don't have to be students of mine anymore.
Teaching bowing.
Go ahead, Jushi.
Can we receive if we do not see what it is? If we have an intention to receive, but we don't see what it is, can we still receive it?
So the ground path and fruition, the ground is suffering, difficulty, frustration, life is suffering, life is difficult, confusion in our lives, passion, aggression, and ignorance. Then the path is train your mind to see what this is. So the path is, as I teach it, is intend to see what this is. Intend to get your cushion, intend to do it yourself, see what this is. Look at the wall, and then eventually you'll begin to look within. Takes a while. And then when you see what this is, when consciousness sees itself, it won't see anything. And this is called fruition. And it will not be an event in time or space. Time means tick, 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 tick. Space means anywhere. Here, there, here, anywhere. You'll have no location. There isn't anything but consciousness. And it has no, again, location in time, which is a concept, or space, which is a concept. If you think this space is not a concept, then sit on the cushion for a few decades. Watch the nature of your mind. Go ahead.
Elena bowing. Back to your response to Mahesh. I had a situation arise yesterday and I was wondering what would have been the best way to handle it. I felt like
Oh my God. What's the best way to handle it? Give me a minute. Okay, wait. You gotta put on my thinking cap. Where is? Okay, go ahead.
well, we were late to the event and I was feeling very frustrated.
You're late to an event?
Yes. And
How dare you?
I thought I was being authentic by saying, what took you so long? Could it just like burst out of me? But that
Who are
didn't
you
end up
saying it
being
to?
helpful.
When you go this, what is that? Who's that?
Shodo.
Oh, Shodo, that guy.
But
He's a fully ordained monk. How can he possibly be late? He's
It
always on
ended
time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It ended up triggering him and causing miscommunication. And he's like, let me out of the car. I'm not going.
Yeah.
It's like this big mess that we had to resolve.
But there's nothing wrong with any of that. We do that all the time, don't we? Imagine what it's like for her to live with somebody like this. Painful. Is it painful for me? Nope. Is it painful for me? Yep. Is it painful for me? Nope. Is it painful for me? Yep. Same. It's you can't get away from it. It's unreal. It's like watching a scary movie. Is it scary? Yes. Is it real? No. Is it scary? Yes. Is it real? No. It's the same time. If you understand that, you actually begin to have something that I don't know what it is. I don't know that you just have a deep understanding of what this is. It can bring tears to your eyes. It goes to mine all the time. But it's not an emotion. Not an emotion. sad feeling, not a happy feeling, not an emotion. Continue with your question. I rudely interrupted you.
Elena bowing. Is it better to just receive everything and
Wait,
not
Is it
outflow?
better? Wait a minute. Now I'm really starting to cry. Better. Is it butter or margarine?
Elena bowing, what is most effective?
Receive. Just receive it. Just, if I go into the scenario or go into the concatenations or whatever's happening between you, as soon as you see what is happening, just receive it. Just listen to what he's saying. Just even though he's going, like, let me out of the car. Don't let him out of the car. Say, okay, I'll let you out in a couple minutes. Play with it a little bit. Gonna have fun with it. I'm not talking about making fun of him. His emotions are for what is arising. If I understand what you're saying, are genuine. And at the time, they feel real. They're intense. So you need to be respectful of the fire that he's being burned by. Give him a little bit of time there. You follow me? Receiving. And I know you have your own dynamic. It goes the other direction. Your style of doing that is quite a bit different than his, but it has similarities. More about it if you have it. It's very direct questions are best. Like, what should I do?
Elena bowing. Well, then the situation progressed and he started to make fun of me and I said, that's not helpful. And he said, well, I'm being authentic. Is that true?
It needs a good slap. Don't put up with that. Or else you get the other way to say, oh, thank you for your authenticity. It's so helpful to me. I mean, you can mock him a little bit. You two are very close, so you can play around with that quite a bit. The fundamental situation is there's no words for it. Otherwise, you had words for it, you wouldn't be able to stay together. You can't describe it. Trying to describe it brings it into the wood shop, and you start to construct and build and change. That's wrong. This is put together wrong. And then the next thing you know, you can't stay together anymore because nothing fundamentally works in a mechanical way. But stay in the area where you don't know what it is. It's like living in a room full of feathers. You don't know what it is. There's no walls of the mind. But until you realize your true nature, it's going to be more like feathers. Like that kind of confusion is not really threatening, but it's just like no reference point to anything. You can do that. Sir.
Shoto bowing. In some traditions, I've learned that there's actually practices to start to like to actually generate some disgust with things that you normally like with happiness. Is that anything that you teach or anything helpful in that area?
I don't teach it. I think there's enough of that going on already. Just feeling really good and then being disgusted with how you got hooked by feeling really good. Is that what you meant?
Or like the charnel ground dwellers, like looking at a body that's decomposing, so they don't like bodies as much.
I think that's coming out of ancient time. I'm not saying that couldn't happen situationally, but I think we have enough of it right now. Those charnel ground practices, chud practices, Tibetan tradition. Excuse me, are coming out of a culture where it was much different than our culture. Our communication situation, albeit confusing, is really powerful. This is why we have a monastery where people can come and go, not just monks, but families can come and go. So it's much different than that. I'm not sure if I'm getting to your question, am I?
Shoto bowing. It's something in the area of pain and pleasure alike have become ornaments, which it is pleasant to wear. And does that mean that pain and pleasure start to look similar? Does it mean
Rather than look similar, we realize that they're not separate. They're not two different things. A good feeling, they're all nerve endings of sorts. It's abrading nerve endings or stroking them with a feather. More images like real soft, receive like looking at this is one of the things in the arts with music and And you would know about this, it's about taking the chaos that people thought was chaos and actually looking for the parts of the chaos in such a way that you can bring that together in such a way that it's magnetizing. It's like artists, a good example would be artists, before Picasso or Willem de Kooning came along, you had to paint things that look like things. And then they came along and started to change that. So now we have paintings where, look at the paintings of Franz Klein, painter, a New York school painter, painted in the 1950s, just big black stripes across the, just rough paint going this way. But his way of arranging it was quite magnetic. You had to give it some time. You had to look at it and be, visually unreceived to really be able to see how amazingly creative this person was. But also, just like the music that you've been involved with, the metal, heavy metal, still call that. There's different names for it because they want to make it a little bit different than what happened 3 weeks ago. But really intense, chaotic kind of stuff coming together, what's sometimes referred to as postmodern. So bringing things together in such a way that you're including the chaos in the art. The upside is really powerful stuff. The downside is that it's just in one particular sense field rather than the entire. In order to do it with all the senses, seems to be necessary to function in some way to train the entire mind, all of the sense fields, which of course I'm very biased in this area. Meditation is how you do that. So all the senses are starting to come apart from the reference points rather than just a visual one because you're a great artist, or just a auditory one because you're creating really unusual, chaotic, crazy music. Did I go away from what you were asking me about? Probably.
Shoko bowing.
Yes.
It brings up something you said a while back, that it was a student, they're not here right now, but they created a really pretty ikebana. And I think it was just the two of us in the Zendo, and you pointed and you said they need to do that with their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some arranging we can do with our mind like that?
Yes. Yeah, the mind is already ikebana. Well, the world out here is all laying all over the place. So you bring in with a flower arrangement, which is the Japanese form of working with forms, heaven, earth, and man. Heaven is heaven is up here, the earth is down here, and then man is that which brings together heaven and earth. Just ideas or symbols. But yes, that's already the case in the mind stream. Heaven and earth are already joined. But if you're polarizing, if you're grasping at this or rejecting that, if you're going with heaven and hell, then you're going to have some difficulty with it as man or as a woman or as a being, consciousness. More. Great practice. We'd also do it with the calligraphy too, heaven, earth, and man. It's a good practice. Is there anyone on? So Mahesh, you have another question?
Mahesh Bhawan.
Yes, go ahead.
So I understand for someone who has seen their true nature, they can still act out of emotions in the heat of the moment or to express themselves. But do they also plan later on and control others, or do anything for their self-interest? Can that happen? Bowing.
They may. I mean, that could happen. A lot of that self-interest may come from other people's projections onto them, thinking that they're self-interested and they're just doing things for themselves, judging that person because sometimes it's just easier for one person to judge someone else rather than themselves. So it's possible, but that doesn't mean that the person who is say you use the fancy word awakened or realized, it doesn't mean that person isn't taking a bath or having some food. They like this food rather than that. Doesn't mean that they still operate in as the body that they were born with. That may still happen. What seems to be missing in that area is the greed or the demand. So if that person is in that area, yes, they may prefer this over that. But if you came along and say, well, we don't have that, you have to do this, then you just receive whatever is offered, whatever shows up, you just receive that. There's no disappointment happening. There's no filler comes in the mind. Oh, I wanted that and I don't get it. And why can't they come up with that? Or why Why can't I have my way? So this is it's a good question. It's a very interesting area. So the passion, aggression, and ignorance, pushing, pulling, and shutting down doesn't go away in the one who is clear, who is realize that they're just consciousness. They're still functioning with a body that has an arm that's moving. Just that there's a lot of awareness there that is functioning in terms of receiving rather than producing. The producing comes right out of, if you're seeing what this is, then any movement you make is coming out of what you're receiving. Just like if I hear your question or anyone's question, anything I say as a response is I am what you're saying. If I separate myself as some higher being who's more enlightened, who knows more, who understands more, then it's going to be more of a conceptual response to you, which would happen possibly in a lecture hall on philosophy or even in Buddhism. People who know more than others and operate with concepts. But what I'm understanding here is this just operates out of concepts. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know right from wrong, to put it bluntly. But I do know what this is, and it's consciousness. And nothing needs to be fixed. Though we need to be very respectful of those who are still caught up in fixing, repairing, shutting down, opening up, clearing out, repairing. We need to be respectful of that. Otherwise, we can't help anybody if we're setting ourselves up as some kind of superior mind-only person or some Zen master or something. It's not going to be helpful.
Mahesh Bhavin. So as I understand, the response comes out of whatever is outside, coming from outside,
Yes.
but not from out of self-interest to protect this being or to in the interest of this being. Bhavin.
Yes, there will be some, but it's not much. So it's not the consciousness that has realized and is no longer submerged in intense self-absorption of me and my stuff, my ideas, my opinions, my judgments, and trying to protect oneself, either their reputation or anything like that. Then that doesn't mean there wouldn't be something. There'd be a little bit happening there. You're certainly not going to walk in front of a train, so you're not that outlandishly crazy. But you're, from the point of view of most of the egos that are stumbling around in the world, you could appear quite crazy, especially if you're functioning as a teacher. Yes, sir.
Dodo bowing. Fundamentally, is there a difference between being reactive and being responsible?
So if I understand what you're asking about, reactive means something happens and you react to it. But responsible means you just receive it. You may do something, you may not. Whereas the reactive is like, this happens, then this happens, that happens, and this happens. So that may be happening also. You cannot figure this out. That gets us caught up in that unexamined area where there's somebody who wants something, but we're trying to pretend like that's not true. We're trying to pretend like we're really just trying to be kind and loving. And actually, we want something. We want to be the one who's kind and loving. Identity. Usually that's what's happening there. If the identity has come apart, then there may be some reactivity going on, or something may show up that way, but there might just be responsibility. In other words, you're responsible. You see what this is? You're responsible for everything. You're not to blame for anything. But there's no singularity. But responsibility has no center, has no fringe. It's just responsible. This is your work. Everything is yours. Every cloud, every plant, every person. You're not separate from them. It's not like ownership, but you're not separate from them. Yes.
Dodo bowing, at least on the path, could we say that we need to be responsible for our reactivity? Bowing.
I think maybe responsible as. Responsible as the reactivity rather than for it. As is, there's a less emphasis on the polarity part of it. Still there, but just keep it very simple. I wouldn't get too heavily into the conceptual area and be in the area where you have no idea what's happening. That's consciousness. If you have an idea what's happening, something suspect there. Yes.
Dodo bowing. So with that, would seeing something as like I'm being reactive, that's a little bit of a cover up then? Bowing.
Maybe. Judging yourself, I mean, maybe. It's also path quality, though. You're seeing it on being reactive, so there's some evaluation going on there. Maybe some of that, there's an area where it shows up, but there's no addition to it. There's no additional commentary. There's just a very simple insight that being reactive. Then the whole thing goes away. No, there's no punishment for it, no condemnation, no ongoing remorse. Even though in our precepts and everything and so on, we have a idea of being remorseful about things. So, but that's still path quality. Go ahead.
So bowing, the tail end of that scenario that Elena was bringing up, we got to a point like, what do we do with this? And I think we just suggested we just need to step away for a second, and even just like 2 minutes, we walked away and we came back and everything was fine. How does something like that work?
Just like you said, you just step away and let especially two people who are meditators. It doesn't matter if you've been meditating for 10 minutes or 30 years. It doesn't make any difference how much you set, how much you don't set. I've had students here who sat hours and hours and hours, and I don't know what they've been doing when they're sitting, but it's not showing up in their post meditation. Particularly, what's showing up in post meditation is the insanity takes over, and they start destroying things around them, people and situations, just unrelentingly justifying. So this is when Trungpa Rinpoche talks about sitting practice of meditation can be dangerous. He's not talking about dangerous to individuals. He's talking about if you don't see what this is, then training the mind can lead to kind of a super powerful self-centeredness that thinks it's right and thinks others are wrong. Which is we've all been smeared with that quite a bit lately. It's heartbreaking to see, but it's just part of dependent origination, been going on for centuries and centuries. Started with the Buddha, started before the Buddha, started with the Upanishads, started with teaching and learning and situations, down through the centuries. Nothing to fix, but there's something to see. And I invite all of you, here's where you see it. Go within. Hard to do that while you're sitting at McDonald's. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop by McDonald's and get a Coke and then go back to the monastery. It's not. Sorry. Please excuse me. Just it's important to return to it, not maintain. Some people can come in here and sit. There's some students that sit for hours and hours and hours, a couple dozen hours a week. Other students that sit, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours a week. Not this one is not better than the other. The important thing is get to the cushion, sit there, hold still, and endeavor to see the truth yourself. Return to that. You can do that. You don't have to join me. You don't have to be a student of mine. You don't have to be a Buddhist. You don't. But if you have to do anything, if you're listening to me, I'm saying just find out who you are and get that identity from society or from your wife or your husband or your son or your dog or your pile of comic books. Don't get it from anything else. Get it here. Go within. Yeah, thank you so much.